We'll get started in a meditative seat, whatever that looks like for you today. It could be in hero pose. It can be in crisscross position. Again, whatever feels most comfortable for you. It could even be lying down. But we'll just allow ourselves to enter into this practice with a focus and awareness of our breath. This could look like eyes closed or eyes open. And instead of controlling the breath during this initial part of the practice in our meditation, we allow our breath to guide us in with the following of the breath. So allowing your breathing to be as it is, taking note of your inhales in and exhales out. We use this as the establishment of our ahimsa practice today. With ahimsa being the first yama in the 8 limbs of yoga. And ideally, it's a moral principle in how we're moving about the world externally and internally. And ahimsa is Sanskrit for nonviolence, but it's so much more beyond that simple term. So as you're offering yourself curiosity with the breath, maybe gain any insight or deeper sense of observation with how you're showing up for yourself today. Does it look like nonviolent action or nonviolent thought? And that can be quite challenging, especially during a pandemic or maybe external factors that provide you just difficulty to maintain self-compassion. We'll continue to be here for about 5 more breaths. And knowing you can come back to this awareness anytime during the practice to find equanimity. We'll take one more round of breath here. And then exhale, sigh out. Wherever you were at, whatever seat that you were in, we'll meet into a cross-legged position. If you're already there, awesome. And we'll just start to warm up the body nice and gently, giving us time to really feel it out today before moving into some sun salutations. So we'll start to take some big circles. You can be as small as you want, big as you want, whatever feels inspiring for you today. And part of this ahimsa practice that we move into during these next 60 minutes is if you hear me say something on the mat that maybe doesn't feel appropriate or authentic for you, know that you don't have to take it. So that's part of the self-compassion practice and showing advocacy for ourselves, showing up authentically as we are and knowing where our truth stands in physical movement and in our emotional well-being. Where do we actually need to show up today? And how can we continue to practice in this safe space? Reverse your circles opposite direction. So it's quite interesting to move into an ahimsa practice during a power class, where power classes are typically associated with very quick movement, fast pace, lots of chaturangas typically. So again, how can you show up in self-care, moving into nonviolence for your internal well-being and external well-being? We'll meet back towards the center. Taking cat-cows here in this seated position. Hands can be still onto the knees or anywhere that else feels appropriate for you. On your inhale, bring your chest forward, roll your shoulders back, maybe gaze up high towards the ceiling, whatever degree that you want to move into your cervical spine. And exhale, start to roll your chin down, start to lean back so you get that curvature into your spine. Inhale, shift back forward, chest pulls forward and through. And exhale again, start to lean back. Moving with your own breath, letting this feel inspired with your own movement. And continue to take your time, breathing in and out. I really appreciate you showing up today on your mat. That is a step towards nonviolence in and of itself. And then we're offered each moment to practice nonviolence. Again, in how we think, how we move, what we say. It's an opportunity to continue to move in. Take one more round of breath here in this cat-cow in a seat. We'll continue to sit up tall in your spine. Really start to lift up even out of your side body. Maybe place a block underneath just to gain a little bit more height if that feels more appropriate on your pelvic floor. Then we'll reach our arms all the way up, hands high towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring your hands down toward your heart, Anjali Mudra. A couple more times to inhale, sweep up, just getting deeper into your arms. Exhale, hands towards heart center. Last time, inhale, reach up. And exhale, hands towards heart center. Just spending a moment here, creating an intention for yourself that feels, again, appropriate to move towards that nonviolent element. Again, whatever word that you want to choose that feels empowering to continue to assist yourself in this ahimsa practice. So we are co-creating with our body, our breath, our minds, our spirits. And this intention could look very different each time that we check in with ourselves. We'll enter in with a lion's breath. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, sigh out, mouth. Interlace the fingers. If you had your eyes open, you can keep them closed or open, your choice. Press the palms away towards, away from your body. Continue to drop your chin down towards your chest so you get that nice stretch in your cervical spine. Then on your next inhale, lift your arms up towards the ceiling. Really continue to extend out of your side body, but draw the shoulders down your back. So we're not overextending into the sockets, but really continuing to stay strong into the upper body. On your exhale, move towards one side for your side body stretch. Really root down into the hip bones so you can stabilize into the rest of your body. On your inhale, lift back up towards the center. Exhale, switch towards your other side. Come back up, inhale, center line. Release the hands down by your side body. Either lift your heart up or maybe you want to press your hip flexors up towards the ceiling to lift your glutes off the ground. Slowly release the hip bones back down if you had them lifted, and we'll move towards a seated forward fold. Continue to press the hip bones back towards the mat. And relax your head. Great place for a block underneath your forehead to create some support. And while we're here, you can continue to stay down the center line or maybe walk your hands off towards one side. If you went towards one side, make sure to balance it out towards the opposite. Come back towards the center. We'll all meet there. Then pull yourself forward towards a tabletop position. So we'll continue to move into what we did in our seat with some circles first, just getting deeper into the hips and into the wrists. So what's so interesting, especially with a physical practice within yoga, is that our minds like to attach to really trying to identify with certain elements of the pose, maybe identifying them as good or bad. But how can we continue to stay present, creating nonviolence in our thoughts, even when we enter into a pose that we may not like? Mine is definitely chair pose, so we'll invite that practice in just a second. Reverse your circles opposite direction. It's allowing yourself to breathe and be with the pose, knowing that you can come out or add on at any point during this class, never really waiting for my cues to add on or take away. And that's how we practice ahimsa. We continue to get curious with our own bodies and our minds. Come back towards the center, cat-cow from here. Inhale, look up, and exhale, look down, round through the spine. Couple more times on your own. It might feel quite different than when we were doing it in a seat. Is gaining insight into the slight variation. Take one more round of breath on your own. And we'll move towards child's pose. Toes together, knees wide. Again, very similar that what we did in our seated position. We'll continue to stretch through our side body. Walk your hands towards the left side of your mat. Maybe dial the right cheek down or even place the right hand on top of the left. And just continuing to note that when you hear some of the cues that I'm offering, we can think of it more like Google Maps, choosing our own adventure, our own route to take. Maybe you want to deviate from the route that I'm suggesting. That's really where, again, the heart of ahimsa really lies. Knowing when to deviate, knowing when to move in. Switch sides if you took one direction. And of course, you can still stay in child's pose if that feels best for you in this moment. Within the first 10 minutes of this class, we really move slow, just continuing to offer ourselves time to gain insight from how we're showing up today in our physical body. Come back towards the center line. Slide forward into puppy pose. So it looks like tabletop position into the lower half of the body where the knees are in line with the hips. But then the top half of the body looks like either a downward facing dog or an exaggerated child's pose. Maybe you want to take your arms, hands towards the outer edge of the mat, or even come up onto the tips of your fingers. Your forehead can stay down or even chin down, gaze forward. So just being mindful of your neck. Option to continue to stay in your puppy pose or thread the right arm underneath the left, drop the right cheek down towards the mat. And sometimes while I'm here, since I do a lot of texting and typing at the computer, if you'd like, you can take your right fist and just circle it out, maybe pump it a couple times to open and close your hand. If you took one side, switch it out towards the opposite. Same options still apply. And if you didn't hear me cue a different variation that you'd like to move into, go for it. Continuing to make sure we honor our bodies exactly where they're at today. And slowly come back out. We'll meet into a Sphinx pose. So going into a bigger back bend that'll set us up for Cobra. Forearms down. Lift the pelvic floor up off the ground and then re-lengthen the lower lumbar out. Then act as if you're pulling yourself forward. So chest is open, collarbone starts to open up. You can either stay here, maybe look down, chin towards your chest, and then move your head side to side. My apologies if you hear a lot of the music my bones are making right now. You can either stay in Sphinx pose or turn this into a cobra. Press your hands down into the mat, lift your chest. Check in with how much of your back body that you're actually using by hovering your hands up off the ground. Keep pressing the tops of the feet down into the earth so you use your entire back body. Lower down. One last thing before we move into our first downward facing dog, we'll get deeper into the pecs. Take that left arm towards the left side of your mat, forearm down so it looks like a half letter T. Left cheek drops towards the ground, bend your right knee, and then start to move over towards the left side of your body. So I know this cueing of the pose always feels like you're playing Twister or on a Twister mat. But ultimately, we're really trying to get into that left pec. If you'd like, I'll demo on the wall as well. So essentially, we're taking that left forearm towards the ground just to continue to open up into the left pec. And you can also do that against the wall and receive the same benefits of this stretch. Come back towards the center. Take another cobra pose before switching sides. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower. And now right arm, take it all the way out towards the side. Right forearm down, palms face down. Bend your left knee and then start to roll over towards your right side body. One side might feel different than the other. So allowing yourself to settle in. Take note of how we can observe those differences and, of course, change it up as needed, be it physically or mentally. Come back towards the center. We'll take one more cobra pose. Inhale, lift your chest up, lower down. Tabletop position, press back. All right, let's tuck the toes here and move towards a hovering tabletop. You can still take traditional tabletop to drop the knees, but we'll take some modified cat-cows here. So right now it should feel kind of like a cat pose with the rounding in toward your spine. Drop your knees down, inhale, gaze forward for cow. We'll do that a couple times. Tuck the toes, hover the knees. Drop your knees, inhale, look forward, cow pose. Last time, tuck the toes, hover the knees. Stay here. We're moving to what's called turbo dog. So it looks like downward facing dog in the upper body, but the knees stay bent and continue to press those hips back. So it kind of looks like a very compact downward facing dog. On your inhale, shift all the way forward towards your high plank. So we're straightening it out. A couple times to press back towards turbo. Bend the knees, press the hips back. Inhale, shift forward, high plank position. Last time, turbo dog. Hold here. And downward facing dog, straighten out the legs. Maybe you need to adjust the hands, adjust the feet. Knowing that puppy pose is always available instead, or even tabletop position if you didn't want to be in downward facing dog. But we can bend the knees a couple times just to warm up deeper into the calves and the hamstrings. Maybe say yes and no with the head. Another lion's breath to add on. Inhale. And exhale, sigh out mouth. Drop down tabletop position. Then walk your hands about one hand's width distance forward and shift forward towards a modified plank pose. We'll take a couple times to warm up deeper into the triceps with some tricep push-ups. Lower down, press back up. Lower, press up. Last time, lower, press up. Lower all the way down. Again, cobra pose, lift up. Lower back down. Tabletop position, rise up. Tuck the toes, hover the knees. Lower the knees down. Inhale, look forward and up. Cow pose. Again, tuck the toes, hover the knees. Turbo dog, shift back. On your inhale, shift forward, high plank. Downward facing dog, press back. All right, y'all. So now that we've really opened up deeper into the body, we'll move a bit faster, knowing that the intention still remains the same with ahimsa, but maybe you change your word or your personal intention before we move into some sun salutations. So knowing that our intentions are always malleable as our brains always change moment by moment, our bodies change moment by moment. So making this adaptable. When you're ready to move, tiptoe all the way up towards the top of your mat to meet your hands. We'll meet into a standing forward fold. Great place for ragdoll pose, hands around opposite elbows. You can take a slight bend at the knees. Just allowing gravity to do its thing here. Take one more breath in your standing forward fold. Then if you were in ragdoll, release the hands down towards the mat. And as slow as you possibly can, taking notice of each vertebra, rise all the way up towards a standing position, head being the last to rise. Once you get towards that standing position, adjust anything as needed. I always need to adjust my yoga pants and top. Things get kind of wonky when I warm up. Then once you're towards that mountain pose, start to walk the feet in so that they're hip width distance. And even here, this should be more of a strenuous pose. So start to pull that belly button in towards your spine. Start to hug muscle to bone so the legs turn on. Then continue to lift up into your torso, roll the shoulders back. Maybe you close your eyes here, standing in your own power, knowing that when we stand in our own power, we can still move towards nonviolence. So very similar to Gandhi, to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that we can practice our power and still be nonviolent and act with compassion. Let's start to move now. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, forward fold, release. Halfway lift, inhale. Step your left leg back. Drop your knee down, low lunge. All right, so we're modifying these sun salutations first. We'll meet towards a downward facing dog, press back. Option to hang out here or shift forward, high plank position. Taking your own flow, whatever your chaturanga looks like, with or without the knees. Inhale, maybe cobra or upward facing dog to lift the quads up off the mat. We'll meet downward facing dog all together. About 3 breaths here in your downward facing, knowing that you can come into anything else that feels suitable for you in this moment. On your inhale, step the right leg forward. So same leg that we already did. Drop the back knee. Pull that chest forward so it feels kind of like a cobra pose in the chest. And step all the way up, forward fold. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, forward fold, release. Inhale, reach your arms up. Hands towards your heart center, we meet there. Let's move towards the other side. Continue to notice your breath. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold, release. Halfway lift, inhale. Right leg, step it back. Drop the knee, inhale, lift the gaze. Downward facing dog, press back. Again, choose your adventure, add on or take away. If you're following me, inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lower down, chaturanga. Up dog, inhale, big breath. Downward facing dog, press back. 2 breaths here this time in your downward facing. On your next inhale, again, gaze forward, see where you're going. Step that left foot up towards the top of the mat. Drop the back knee, again, cobra pose into the chest, so shoulders roll back, collarbone open. Forward fold, exhale, right leg meets the left. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach up. Hands toward your heart center, exhale. All right, you can move through the same exact sun salutations that we just did. Otherwise, I'm going to cue some different sun sals if you'd like to join. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold, release. Halfway lift, inhale, step or maybe even jump back. Lower down toward your chaturanga. Knowing you can always skip these, we'll meet downward facing dog in your own time. So once you're towards the back of the mat, only one breath here. Inhale in, exhale out, gaze forward, inhale, step or jump towards the top. Halfway lift, inhale, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach up, arms high, hands towards your heart center, exhale. And same variation still available. One more time, inhale, reach up, exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift, inhale, step or jump back. You can move through your own flow. Maybe you want to add on a handstand hop or whatever. But again, we all meet downward facing dog. One breath in, exhale out. Again, gaze forward, step or jump. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Rise up, mountain pose, reach the arms high. Arrive, hands towards heart center. Again, before we switch it up, giving yourself that moment to check in. Now that you've moved your body a bit faster, moved into different poses, what does your intention now look like? Are you still operating with that non-violent mindset? Continuing to uplift yourself along the way and whatever your lived experience is. Take one more full round of breath. Sigh it out, mouth. All right, let's move towards chair pose. My favorite pose to challenge that nonviolent mindset. So your chair pose can look like a bar stool. It can look like one of those tiny, tiny IKEA chairs. Just trying to warm up deeper into the glutes. Continue to shift the weight back into the heels. Either arms up, maybe hands towards heart center. We're going to add on here. Reach your arms back, jet airplane the arms. Act as if you're hugging the triceps like a big beach ball is behind you. Great place to stay or option to shift forward, tippy toes, lift the heels. Can you continue to stay in the work though? You might need to lower your glutes down a bit to really feel it back into your quads. Take one more full round of breath. We're going to meet towards a standing back bend. Wherever you are, drop the heels, inhale, reach up, press the hip flexors forward, big breath. Exhale, forward fold, release. Halfway lift, inhale, step your left leg back, runner's lunge. Either drop the knee down or keep the knee up, but we'll move into a twist, left arm down, right arm high. So we'll start to build a sequence now, taking this breath by breath, knowing that we'll be coming into some different poses that we haven't done yet. So giving ourselves plenty of time for grace and curiosity. One more breath to lift. Exhale, drop your hand down, drop the back knee, low lunge, inhale, reach your arms up. So toes can be tucked or untucked, that's your personal preference. We'll move towards a half split. Drop your hands down, maybe to a block or two. Also option to reach your arms back again like we were doing into that chair pose. So take note of what again needs to turn on physically in order for this pose to feel supported. So really hugging into your core for one more full breath. Anjaneyasana, shift back forward, low lunge, inhale, reach your arms high. Three-legged down dog, drop the hands down, lift that right leg all the way up and back. We'll open up that hip, bend the knee. Since this is your first real big three-legged dog, great time to take some hip circles or ankle circles. Step it forward to find warrior two. So take your time to set up the feet, to open up the hips. And we'll hold this pose for about 2 to 3 breaths, just acclimating to a different asana. So at the same time that you're grounding down through your feet, zip into your center line and hug again tight towards the core. So it feels like the energy's pulling up. We'll move a couple times to straighten through this front leg. Take the elbows in towards your side body, straighten through the leg. And then re-extend all the way out, warrior two. Get elbows in towards the side body, draw it in, straight leg. Warrior 2. Last time, draw the elbows in. Warrior 2, release. Reverse your warrior, reach back. Really become light onto the back fingertips. So a lot of it is being supported into the upper body rather than just dumping. Take one more full round of breath here. Then side angle, right arm down, left arm high. While you're here, if you'd like to take a half bind, we have some time. So we're just working into opening up the inner thigh line on that right leg some more. Gaze can be up or down, whatever feels best on your neck. Take one more full round of breath here. We'll find our way to our reverse triangle. So start to straighten that front leg, reach all the way back. So very similar to reverse warrior, but front leg is straight. Then cartwheel your hands down, frame that front foot. All right, listen up. So this is a bit of a funky transition. Drop your left knee down. We're moving towards modified side plank. So you can use that left leg as a kickstand. Keep the left hand down, kick the right leg back. So your back leg can stay up. Maybe you want it down. Maybe you want to come into a bind to draw that right heel in towards your glute, or even kick away from your body to get deeper into your chest. Continue to stay with the breath, whatever variation you're in. We're rising up to find modified side angle towards the back of the mat. So left leg is going to stay down, bend the right knee, right arm down, left arm up. So we've been in side angle before, so this might feel quite different to move into it with the knee down. Maybe you find more accessibility to take a bind, a full bind, a half bind. So a lot of work into the hips in this sequence. We'll get the left leg in just a second. Whatever variation you took will come back towards that modified side plank. So straighten through that front leg again, left arm down, right arm up. Again, bit of a funky transition. Drop your hand down. Pivot to square off the hips, lift the right leg up. So we're still working into the engagement of the exact same leg. Bend your knee so the foot is up towards the ceiling. A couple times just to pump through your glutes, pulsing towards the ceiling for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Move towards a fire hydrant pose, so just open up your leg. While you're here, while you're opening, if you want to kick it out straight, that might be an option too. But again, really hug in towards the belly button so you're protecting your low back. From here, we'll move to cross that right leg. So I like to call it sassy pose. There's really not an official name for it, but it's what I call it. So the ball of the foot is down towards the right foot. You can stay up on the fingertips and just gaze towards your left shoulder. Or maybe you want to come down onto your forearms or even just your left forearm and gaze back. So I'll give you a different view just to see what it looks like from this angle. So ultimately, we're trying to get deeper into our right side body. Should feel even like a slight twist. To come out of this pose, we'll step that right leg forward towards lizard. All right, we landed into another hip opener. We'll be here for about 3 to 5 breaths. So your back knee can stay down. Maybe you want to tuck the toes and lift the back knee up. If you want this to feel more like a plank pose, try lifting the hips so it feels like you're in a 3-armed, actually, no, I have all my legs down. that you're in a three-legged plank position. And whatever you want it to look like, you have a bunch of different options. Maybe you didn't hear the one that I cued. Take about 2 more rounds of breath. Notice where your thoughts are taking you still, especially since we've been on one side for a very long time. Your next breath, take your gaze forward. Step up towards a yoga squat. So left leg meets towards the top of the mat. Again, yoga squat can be a goddess instead. It can be hips low. But rather than just coming down where a lot of the times I see like it looks like we're typing at the computer or texting, can you challenge your core to lift up a bit higher and then open up the chest? So we're trying to reverse what we typically do on a daily basis. Take one more full round of breath here. Exhale, sigh out. Wide-legged forward fold is where we'll meet. Straighten through the legs, drop the head down. We'll counter what we just did with a twist. Left arm stays down, reach that right arm up. Great place to bend more at the left knee. Top arm can even come behind your back body for a half bind. Take one more full round of breath here. And exhale, release that top arm down. Keep the legs wide, slowly rise up towards a standing position. We'll take a standing back bend, hands towards the hips, press the hips forward, look up, and lift all the way back up straight. Walk those feet back in. Zip back in towards the center line. We got the other side to do. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold, release. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Again, slowly rise back up. We're coming towards chair pose again. So this is the second time that we've seen this pose. Adapt to the insight that you learned the first time and to what's going to usher in that self-compassion. So it might be a physical change. It might be a mental change. Again, I'm going to offer the same cues as before. Take what you need. Reach your arms back. Shift forward, tippy toes. Maybe sink down a little bit lower. We're all meeting towards standing back bend. Drop the heels. Inhale, reach up. Squeeze the glutes to get out of that lower back. Exhale, forward fold, come back down. Halfway lift, inhale. Right leg, step it back. Runner's lunge twist, right arm down, left arm up. And this is the first time that we've been on this side. So again, take what you need with extra movement or stillness. Last breath to lift. Anjaneyasana, drop the back knee. Inhale, reach your arms up. Either back toes tucked or untucked, whatever feels more stable for you. We move towards our half split, straighten through that front leg, reach the arms back. You can also drop the hands, so know that one cue is not a one-size-fits-all thing. So you keep doing you, boo. So I always like to remind my students and also myself. Shift back forward. Inhale, reach your arms up. We're moving towards three-legged down dog. That could also be three-legged tabletop instead. Wherever you are, left leg is up. Bend the knee, open the hip. Optional movement or stillness. We're meeting towards warrior two. So for the sake of cueing, I'm just going to switch towards facing y'all. That does not mean that you have to switch towards the back of the mat. So once you're in your warrior two, again, settle in, investigate, see what's going on this side, and press down, but pull up. Reverse your warrior, reach back. Light onto the fingertips with the right hand. And side angle, left arm down, right arm high. So now that you know what's coming on this side, continue to stay present, investigate within each asana, but also know that this is not the first time that we're moving towards side angle. We got it a second time with the modified position. So you might even want to take a mental note and be like, oh, okay, well, this is how it feels right now. It might feel different later. Last breath here. Reverse your triangle, straighten through that front leg, reach back. And then cartwheel those hands down, frame that front foot. In that weird transition, drop the knee. Then right hand is going to stay down. You can use the leg as a kickstand. Kick that left leg back. And I realized that we forgot the pumping of the leg on this side, no big deal. But I also have to practice ahimsa within that space and be like, Kelsey, no big deal. No need to beat yourself up for getting one pose. So we practice again on and off the mat. Same options on this side if you want to bend the knee. Maybe foot stays down. We continue to breathe for one more full breath. We're moving towards that modified side angle towards the back of the mat. So still the same leg that we just stretched. Bend your left knee, lift your upper body, left arm down, right arm up. Again, you can reach forward, lengthen through your side body, maybe half bind. There could be more accessibility to find the bind when your knee is down. Great place for a strap or towel. Take one more full round of breath in this modified side angle. We're back towards that side plank. Straighten through your left leg. Right arm comes down. Lift your arm up. It might take some time, a couple steps or two, to drop your hand down, square off the hips again, then lift the left leg up. So we're in three-legged tabletop. We'll bend that knee just to activate deeper into the glute before we move into a big hip stretch. A couple times to pulse up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take that fire hydrant position. Option to keep the knee bent or extend your leg. This side feels like a knee bent type of situation. And we'll move to crisscross the leg. So the ball of the foot is now behind. And I'll show you at the different angle. So crisscross the legs. Ball of the left foot is down onto the earth. Either hands can stay exactly as they are and then just gaze towards the right shoulder. Or you can come down onto the right forearm. Maybe you try both forearms down. So a lot of the times it's quite challenging to get into the spaces that cause sciatica. So this pose really is beneficial to get deep into the hip joints, including the piriformis. Whatever you took, we'll meet back onto the hands. Lift your left leg back up, swing it all the way around to find lizard lunge. Again, this is your time to change it up as you see fit, to either keep the knee down, maybe knee up. It can be a bind or a twist. We'll stay for about 2 more rounds of breath. Whatever position you took, go ahead and release that hand. Tuck the toes, lift the back knee up, gaze forward. We're again meeting towards our yoga squat. While you're here, same options still available. Maybe you want to try an arm balance instead for the next couple breaths. So that could be Titivasana for firefly, could be crow pose, or any other position that's like really calling your name. Experience a bit of playtime, even if playtime looks like stillness. Take about 1 to 2 more rounds of breath. Then we'll slowly release back towards that wide-legged forward fold. So drop the head down. We'll counteract what we just did with a twist. Right arm stays down, left arm up. And you can bend the right knee just to get deeper into that low back, just to find more accessibility. Half bind, maybe full bind. Sometimes I like to take a block underneath my right hand for full support. Really, the options are limitless in yoga, and really whatever you're taking. We can cause nonviolence and suffering for our own minds when we try to put ourselves in the box that society tells us to put ourselves in. Let's meet back towards a forward fold. Take your time to stand all the way up. Standing back bend, hands towards the hips, press the hips forward, heart high, and standing position. We'll do one balance pose and then we're all the way down towards the ground. So any balance pose is wonderful. I'm going to guide into tree. If you want to move into a different pose, go for it. So a couple options, you can kickstand your leg, you can take it above your ankle, maybe towards a block, or even towards your inner thigh line. We'll be here for about 2 to 3 breaths on each side. So not a whole lot of time, but enough to really work into our balance, to stay upright, feel our own power again. Last breath here on this side, whatever arm shape you want to take. Then take your time to switch towards your other leg. Again, balance might feel a bit more challenged today. Again, non-violence in our minds rather than being like, oh my God, I'm so bad at balance. What else can you say to yourself that instead powers you back towards self-compassion? Gotta laugh at myself when I fall out. Then whatever you took, let's just shake it out. We'll move through one more vinyasa. We'll meet back towards downward facing dog. So wherever you're at on the mat, come down. You can skip the vinyasa and we'll meet again, downward facing dog. That could look like a chaturanga up dog to down dog. Anything else that you want to add on in between. But we'll start to find deeper restoration by coming into pigeon pose. So I'm going to be demoing pigeon on my belly today. You can also come into 90-90 with the back knee bent and the front leg bent. If you want to move onto your back body to do a number 4 position for a pigeon pose on your back, or even double pigeon for that fire log pose, we have a bit of time here. So we start to move towards the end of this class. And I'll speak into my own experience, especially when we come towards the end of a class. A lot of the times my brain likes to psychoanalyze what happened during today's class. And within this psychoanalysis, I tend to label, I tend to even judge how I showed up in the practice. So then I have to really allow, again, self-compassion. Sometimes it's easier on certain days. Sometimes it takes a lot longer to move into that self-compassion space. But that's where, again, ahimsa is, where we can show up and be in the work. So know that a lot of what I say on the mat is not only for y'all to hear, but also for me to hear. And we work together in moving towards a greater humanity. Wherever you're at in your chosen asana, take your time to switch towards the other side. And that could look like another vinyasa in between, or switch out the legs. Just gonna kick my legs around and move towards the other side. And I'm laughing at myself because it's ahimsa in action again, where when I came into this side of my body, I'm like, oh, well, this feels different. And I started to judge again. I'm like, oh, well, this feels super tight. And we can notice it, take insight from it. Usually I just laugh at like what my brain likes to do. Then move into something more fulfilling for my authentic self, like how I'm taking pigeon pose. Take one more full breath in your pose. We'll start to move towards a seated position. So swing your legs around. If you were all the way on your back, we'll meet up, feet down, knees up towards the ceiling. And one last bit of work before we move into Shavasana to close out the practice. Again, just testing where our mind goes when we turn on work in our physical work in our bodies. Practicing resiliency by adapting to the asana. So we're moving into boat pose. Yay, exciting. All right, feet can stay down, but really keep that chest lifted so your entire core is engaged. Great place to even keep your hands underneath your hamstrings. Option to reach your arms forward or even lift your feet up. Again, hang out here for a couple breaths. Not only are we working into the physical, but again, engage the mental. There's another one of those poses that we're all just like, oh, but I don't wanna. I don't wanna do it. It's hard. Last breath to stay. Release the feet down. Give yourself the biggest hug. So allowing yourself to send yourself deeper compassion for doing challenging things. And challenging things can even look like showing up on the mat and carving yourself out 60 minutes. We'll all meet onto our back body. Lower all the way down onto the mat. Release the feet down, knees up towards the ceiling. Decide where you want to go. You can move into a back bend, maybe an inversion of your choice, but just about 1 to 2 minutes to allow yourself some exploration here onto your back body. So I'm going to move into bridge pose first. If you'd like to move with me, feel free. Again, if you're coming into bridge pose, keep grounding your feet down. Lift the hips up. Squeeze the glutes. Shift the weight into the heels. If you're in bridge pose with me, come on down. We'll go for another round of back bends. Again, if you're coming with me, lift up. If you're in your inversion playtime, keep on playing. Lower down. And in this last minute, again, if you'd like to move where I'm moving today, we can move towards waterfall position just to allow a brief inversion time. Great place for a block underneath the hips Or you can even take this against the wall. We'll take one more full round of breath here. And draw your knees back in toward your chest. Give yourself another hug. Release your knees off towards the side for your twist. It's a brief twist. Just allow your spine to decompress some more before we move into our final resting pose. Come back through the center and switch towards your other side. What's so interesting is that within this pose, because it's a pose that feels comfortable for me, ahimsa comes a lot easier. So just again, interesting to note, like between comfortability and uncomfortability, where ahimsa might be easier. Meet back towards the center. One last final hug, round your nose up to meet your knees. We'll move into our final rest for just a brief minute or two. Whatever you want your shavasana to look like is up to you. That could be lying down, could be in a seated posture. And know that you can take shavasana for much longer than even what I'm cueing once this class ends. But do allow yourself this brief moment to come back to where we originally started class with awareness of your breath. If the awareness of the breath does not bring that sense of ahimsa and instead feels triggering, maybe you become more curious with any other sensation that brings you peace, which could look like a body scan, or maybe taking note of sounds in the room that you might hear. So engaging with these sensations, creating presence for the next minute to allow your mind to come back to that sense of equanimity before leaving your mat. Notice if the mind wants to wander, it's very natural. But again, draw back to the sensations that you're experiencing in your body. We'll take one more full round of breath here. Then create any natural movement that can serve you for moving out of your practice.